Well, guess what? Tonight, Clint and BZ are going to tear through the gristle of today's screaming headlines and rip out the sinewy tendons of truth ensconced within, all from the hoary streets of Shatramento, Fornicalia, exposing the trembling, toady, sniveling jackanapes, come on, damn it, BZ, and fripperous fopdoodles infesting altogether too much of this great nation of ours. Please feel free to partake of our chat room at shrmedia.com, featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of the Zepmeister, doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts. Some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC. Batteries not included. Terracross dotted line. Hey-ho in Mexico. Patent pending. Warranty void in Montenegro. Tonight, Clint and BZ will talk about a veritable gaggle. No, a shrewdness, a murmuration, an obstinacy. God, I had a war and a pandemonium, a gaggle, a muster, a covey, an unkindness, a maelstrom, a knot, a shiver, a murder, an intrusion, a smack, a hive, a prickle, yea, a veritable cauldron of topics yonder. Across from me is not Sackheads Clint, and I will be your server and obese somnambulistic reprobate for tonight. Sorry, we don't take American Express or personal checks, and remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition, so please... Jack, would you care to do the line? Remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition, so please. No wagering.
I don't know the line.
Okay.
No wagering.
That's okay. Right. That's right. That's okay. So here's the deal. The dealio is that if I move to this, the screen is not cooperating with me. That's not the right screen. There we go. That's the right screen. Now, if you look closely and you're on video, examine that screen very closely. What do you see? Well, I see something that says shrmedia.com, and I see a word there. It says Clint. And then I see an empty chair. So Clint is not here tonight. How sad. But, well, Clint wasn't here last Wednesday night either. So Jack Alexander has said in the past, hey, BZ, if contrarian Clint doesn't feel like appearing, and he's not here tonight, and he wasn't here last Wednesday, he says, give me a call. I'll be happy to show up. Okay, so last night, yesterday, I actually gave Jack a day's advance warning. Customarily, Clint will give me 5-10 minutes warning that he's not going to be there. He actually said, sorry, I'm not going to be there tonight, Wednesday night. And with that, I was able to let Jack know in a sufficient amount of time so that he could kind of step up and be in here in the, tonight it's not the saloon, it's the Sackheads Against Tyranny. So Jack is going to be with us. I promoted the show as 2 secret guests. And, of course, then I splayed 2 faces on all sorts of social media all over the place, and everybody who knows anything knows. Well, hey, one of them was Jack. Yeah, it was. And the second one looks like Sackhead Sean. Sackhead Sean has said that he's going to attempt to get off work in a sufficient amount of time to attempt to get here by about 9 o'clock Pacific. 9 o'clock, 9:15, right around in there. Somewhere in the second hour. So we're eventually going to have 2 people talking, plus BZ, and of course your phone calls if you want to. I've got a ton of stuff to go over. Most of it is not good about California, but I figured that, you know what, screw it. California, not my favorite place to be these days. I have to kind of hang around until the wife decides she's going to retire. Hey, welcome to Mike. Welcome to Jack. Welcome to Wendy. Welcome to the Alaskan in chat and one viewer who's not going to be unmasked because we don't do that here. And something that I had not anticipated at all occurred tonight. So finally, it's fall, and this is one of BZ's favorite times of years. BZ likes fall, and he likes winter because it's cooler, and I get hot, and I'm not a big fan of heat. It's like Roger Ramjet said, wow, guess it's hot. Must be from the heat. And it's true. In California, spelled with a K, it's hot as hell in Sacramento in the summertime. Maybe that's climate change. Oh, speaking of climate change, tomorrow night, programming note. I indicated that Adam Kokesh will be on tomorrow night. Adam may or may not have a scheduling issue. If he does, that's okay. We will rescheduling him. That's how things operate in radio. So stop just for a second. Jack Alexander, number one, thank you for being here tonight, sir.
You're welcome. So should I be on notice that I'll be back again tomorrow?
No. What I was going to say, which we'll get to tomorrow. Now, I swear to God, I will get to tomorrow. What I was going to say is that, do you have guests on your show?
I have invited people. Every now and then I get the occasional caller that calls in, but as a rule, no, not a lot of people have accepted the invites to come onto the program. The few politicians that I have approached sort of want me to send all of my questions and stick to the script beforehand before they're willing to come on. They don't want any of the tough questions that I want answered. And so I tend to be a bit of a leper in that regard.
Wow, now that's kind of weird. What I was going to do, essentially, is say that in the talk radio world where you have a number of guests, the first thing that you need to do, and Jack, you already know this anyway with regard to how life can screw up on radio, is things can change. You can invite a guest will turn you down. Luckily, a guest will say, no, I can't do it a day or two before, and then you can try to rearrange things. Or guests just won't fail. They'll just simply FTA. They'll fail to appear. And so you have to have enough material to make sure that you cover the amount of time that you had originally slotted for said guest. I always go back to my Alan Thomas story because I feel so bad about Alan Thomas, but he pissed me off so much. When I first started the show in 2017, I've been on just a little over 2 years, about 2 years and 4 or 5 months now. So it's my second anniversary. Yay! I had Alan Thomas on. He was one of my first guests in 2017. And he and I had gone back and forth. Alan Thomas talks about the paranormal, about UFOs, and about Sasquatches. So Alan Thomas, he and I had been corresponding for quite some time, and he agreed that he was going to appear like Tuesday night. Damn it, he's going to be right there. We've gotten the phone call arranged, the time, everything. I've given him a full hour. Luckily, I'd planned, as I customarily do, in advance. And, all right, folks, Alan Thomas is going to be here. It's been about 5 minutes, and he's a little late, but that's okay. I've got some other things to go. So, folks, we're going to talk about this. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour. After about a half hour, I finally get it. Okay, he's not coming on, but because you're a radio host, you can't go 210 over 190 on the air. You have to take it. You have to be measured. You have to tamp things down. But at the end of the show, I was pissed off at Alan Thomas because I thought I worked long and hard to get you on the damn show, and tomorrow, mister, I'm giving you a piece of my mind. Until I contacted him the next day. And luckily, I started off at about 1 or 2 instead of 10. And he actually answered the phone. I said, Alan, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay, I guess. All right. Did we have something scheduled for the show yesterday? Yeah, and I'm really sorry about that. I said, do you think, I thought we had everything worked out. He said, yeah, but I don't know. Last night, about a half hour before your show, I had a heart attack. I can laugh about that now. Maybe he can laugh about that now. But if you don't think that didn't make me feel like the world's smallest little piece of crap for getting angry at Alan Thomas for not showing up on the show, and he later said, man, I really wanted to be on your show. but he had a heart attack. So I always try to frame when guests don't show up or something doesn't happen in radio that step back up that car wash. Weird things may have occurred. So have weird things occurred for you on your show, Jack Alexander?
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar case. John Patton from the Gun Collective. I've been trying to get him or Adam Kraut, their Second Amendment lawyer guy, to come on the show and talk about 2A issues. And we've been bouncing and forth. I think we've set this up 5 or 6 times now, and just at the last minute, something has fallen through. And, like you, I've been in this game long enough to know that I always expect to be disappointed. Maybe that's just because of my upbringing. I always expect people to disappoint me, so I plan accordingly. Yeah, I'll mention, hey, I've got this person coming on, but I normally don't say anything now until they're on the phone and it's the day. Hey, I've got this person, and so on, because you sort of promote it a little bit, and then you annoy your audience because they've tuned in to listen to this person, and they haven't turned up for what reason, and with some of the stuff that's been going on with the NRA and gun control stuff, my little show was probably a little bit smaller fish, or something had happened at that end, and our schedules just kept falling apart at the last second. When he was available to come on and do something, I wasn't available at that time to pre-record it. We've tried everything. We continue to talk about it, but it happens. On the other hand, those sorts of cancellations can be a real blessing as well. I went to visit the folks at Radio America many years back, and I'm in there because I'd been involved with one of their programs earlier in the past. So I went into the studio to say hello and stuff, and I was being given the tour around. And then G. Gordon Liddy, who had the 9 o'clock spot there, his guest cancelled, and it was a case of, well, hang on, you're here, you've got a military background, you both served in the military, you're both veterans, and so on. And I got thrust into the G. Gordon Liddy show. And, that opened up a few doors and so on. So, having a guest cancel, it's all in the way you look at it. You can, I mean, if the person is a repeat canceller because, I just couldn't be bothered, you have a right to be pissed. A heart attack or being knocked off your motorcycle on the way to an interview by a kangaroo and what have you, or a deer or whatever. Yeah, those sort of things put things into perspective. But, you're going... The one thing we've all found in this industry, there seems to be 2 extremes. You have absolute, complete, and total assholes, and you have absolute legends.
Yes, you do.
In this industry, and there doesn't seem to be a middle ground.
You're right. Okay, for the first time tonight, that is true. Either you've got a guest who is absolutely stellar, and I don't know, maybe you've had guests where somebody's new. I'm not sure what kind of a guest they're going to be. I hope they speak well. I hope they have a good facile knowledge of the King's English. They get on, and it's as though they're interviewing themselves. Every once in a while, I'll ask a question or make an interjection. These folks are off to the races. My God, they're what I call, and a lot of radio folks call, an easy interview, because you can throw a couple of questions at them, and they'll take that, and they'll just run with it and go different places. And at the end of the interview, you think, oh my God, this gal just made it so easy for me. It was wonderful. And then you got the other end of the spectrum where you have to get in there with fucking forceps, and you got to pry their damn mouth open, and you got to stick that metal in there and pull out their tongue and just start talking. And there doesn't seem to be
exactly
much in between. You're right. They're either a really good interview or not.
I think the best interview I had, and it was complete and utter chaos, was Robin Williams. The
Are you
breakfast show
kidding?
that I was working on.
You interviewed Robin Williams.
He came in. Well, me and it wasn't my show. I was just one of the ensemble cast, but I had the absolute joy of being in the studio with Robin Williams when he goes completely mental. We'd gotten word beforehand, if there is anything you want to ask Robin Williams, make sure it is the very next question after, "How are you doing, Robin? Welcome to the program." Because if you don't get that question in, you are not going to get it in, and you are on for one hell of a roller coaster ride. On the other hand, one of the worst interviews we ever had was Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies. He came in, and he's in Australia promoting, I think it was Police Academy 1 million or something. Some ridiculous. Were they up to 9 of them or something?
Oh,
so it
there
might
were
have been
a ton.
the 9th one, and he just absolutely refused to play the game. You were pulling teeth to get so much as a single syllable out of this guy. It was crazy. And Patrick Stewart was another uncomfortable interview. They're promoting Star Trek, and one TV interview he was on, they'd packed the audience full of Trek fans.
All right.
And he didn't want to look at them. So the whole night he was there with his back to the audience.
What?
Who had turned out to support not only him and his movie. Yeah.
Well, that's just damn rude. The worst interview I think I ever saw, and you can go to YouTube to confirm this, in his latter years, Jerry Lewis had a guy attempt to interview him, and that was a venom-filled interview, if ever I saw one. Don't know if maybe he was feeling bad, maybe he was having an off day, but oh my God, if I were that person trying to interview Jerry Lewis at that time, I would have said, "Hey, have a nice day, see you later, Jerry." Wouldn't want to be you. A lot of things have happened. We have a bunch of topics to cover. A lot of them are going to include California. And I apologize to Jack in advance because Clint, who is not here, maybe he'll be back next week. Don't know yet. A little too early to tell. We generally go with a lot of local topics, and because we're on the Pacific side of the United Snakes of America, we talk a lot about California things. One of the things that occurred was I had ridden, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Collings Foundation. They used to be, I believe, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Confederate Air Force, and they were responsible for bringing back old World War II fighters and bombers and did a wonderful, wonderful job of it. Confederate became a bad word, and I think they transformed into the Collings Foundation. They had a flying B-24 when I saw them and a flying B-17. The flying B-17 was called the 909. The 909, if you could ride on a B-17, this was a B-17. This one didn't actually see combat, but it was one of the last World War II manufactured B-17s. It came out in 1945. A B-17, for those people who are not aware, is a four-engined United States Air Force, at the time it was U.S. Army Air Corps, bomber, which flew over Germany, flew over Europe and whatnot. This one, however, did not see combat. The B-17G is one of the planes that my dad flew for the 8th Air Force, finished his sorties, came back to the United States. So I've always really enjoyed the B-17. The Collings Foundation came to McClellan Air Force Base in the early 2000s, and I chanced to have a ride on 909. And you have, depending on which position you get into, you can pay $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 for about a half-hour, 45-minute ride. And I chose the bombardier position, so I'm in the nose. Of course, I took video and photographs. Of all the video and photographs that I took, the ones that were in the air, do you think they came out? Nope, they died. So I flew in that plane. It was a wonderful, wonderful World War II relic. Today, it crashed.
Oh.
The 909, it crashed shortly after it took off from, I think it was Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks in Connecticut. And it was doing what it customarily does for the Collings Foundation. It becomes a static display for a while, and you can look at it. They open it all up. You can crawl all around the aircraft. And then when it's through being a static display, depending on how many people have signed up, you can, for me, it was like bucket list stuff. Fly on a B-17, fly on an aircraft type that my dad flew. Oh, hell yes, I'm going. And it was about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, almost 45 minutes. Great time. It was wonderful. Oh, my gosh. It really was a bucket list item. So the crash of this plane, it was totaled. I think there were 13 people on board. There's a pilot, co-pilot, and I think they have someone that is the equivalent of a flight engineer for a crew. And then the rest of the people are folks that are in the plane. You can sit at various locations all throughout the plane. And of the 13 people that were on board, 7 were killed. It lost an engine, attempted a landing back at the airfield, and they still don't know exactly what happened. But to me, that really got me. And it kind of shook me up because I thought, these things, built in 1945, they're way over 60 years old, kind of like me. And when I saw this today, I thought, but for the grace of God went me. So I'm very sorry for the folks that were killed. They were doing something that I'm sure that they loved. The crew was certainly doing something that they loved. The passengers wanted to get a ride of their lives. So sympathies and condolences to the crew, the passengers, everybody else. And that really stuck in my throat today. So,
I mean, that is actually a tragedy. And if it's the plane that I'm thinking of, I saw it a little while back when it visited Wichita Falls. As you know, I'm a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol.
Right.
And, we have a cadet division in our composite squadron, and we took them down to see that. So that is an absolute tragedy. It's amazing how close to home that hits for so many people to hear about that.
You may have recognized it. It was it was the standard green on the top, and underneath it was this powder blue color to match the skies. And then it also had a drawing, a really nice drawing of, I think looks like Elmer Fudd on a bomb holding a shotgun for the nose art. And it was a wonderful plane. It was a wonderful flight. I'm so sorry to see that a piece of history like that went down and took people with it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk
absolute tragedy
about, and I went in, okay, let me go here. We don't have any Clint stories, so my guess is you're not prepared. You don't have any Jack stories. But I have a BZ story. And BZ this week went to lunch. And BZ went to lunch at a great place, kind of local, not far away. They have wonderful food, lunchtime food. They'll serve breakfast. They'll serve breakfast for lunch up to about 11:30 or so. They have a great breakfast menu, a great lunch menu. It's run by some really, really great folks who took it over from a business that was not doing so well. Their food is spectacular, but they never had or could keep service. And not having proper servers, they've gone from having 2 to 3 folks serving. They were packed when they first began, and now it's dwindled down to maybe 1, and now the owner and the cook come out and take your order and serve. You don't, for the area, it's in an industrial area. People who work in industrial areas have a half hour to an hour at the most to have lunch. So if you don't pump out the lunches, you're not going to get repeat business. So people would get, now they're to the point where if they don't get their food, they just get up and walk out. I like the food. I get there early enough that I don't have to worry so much about not getting my food in a timely fashion. But when I do get served, the folks that they have there now, man, they are running their asses off. And literally, they are running. It's not a huge business, but they do run to get your food to you. And I'm watching for the past month or so. Most of these folks aren't tipping. And so I get my food. They do their best to get here. And I leave. It's about a $27 bill. And I leave a $10 tip. And I give it to her in cash because I don't want it going through the register, because I just watched her running her ass off to get the food out to the customers and take the orders. So that led me up to the question of, it just came off the top of my head today. Tips. Do you guys tip? What's tipping like in Australia?
I do.
And what's tipping like all around?
Tipping in Australia is not compulsory because your servers all get at least minimum wage.
Right. Same here.
A lot of people will, but a lot of people don't. If I get good service, I will tip.
Okay.
If I get crappy service, I won't. That's me here. In the US it's a little bit different because a lot of servers are living off of tips only. So I'll usually always tip. Obviously the better the service, the bigger the tip. But it's not compulsory in Australia like it is there.
Sometimes businesses in larger cities will automatically add a tip to a bill. And I go 210 over 190 when I get something like that. And then they'll add, if you have a minimum number of guests, like you have 6, 7, 8 guests, some restaurants will automatically add a tip to the bill. And the automatic adding isn't like 10% or 50. No, screw it. They go right to 20%. And I tip generally
it's strong.
Very well. Because, again, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I was in college and late high school, I worked in some food service places as a host and also longer as a food server. And so I had to run my ass off. And when people would tip me, I really appreciated it. Well, damn me if I didn't work in a college atmosphere. And, of course, college kids don't have more than 2 cents to rub together. And my tips were not long and massive, as you might expect. We're going to have to go to a break. When we come back, folks, if you're interested in weighing in on do you tip, what's a good tip? Do you tip if you get service? Do you tip if you get good service? Do you tip if you get bad service? And then if you have worked as a server, I wouldn't mind you calling in, because I've already heard lots of war stories about who tips well, who tips the worst, and kind of broken down by sex, by race. It's not good. It's not happy. And the reason I ask that is because I asked some questions of those folks when I went to a restaurant about 2 weeks ago, and I got some rather scathing answers from people that their livelihood. Now, you would hope that you wouldn't have to make your livelihood as a server, but you got to do what you got to do to make ends meet. When we come back with Jack Alexander, I'd like to find out, and you folks can call in. And if not, Jack and I will chat calmly amongst ourselves and talk about that and the various things that I happen to learn over the past couple of weeks about servers. This is the Sackheads Against Tyranny. I'm Sackheads BZ. We're talking to Jack Alexander. With luck and crossed phalanges, Sackhead Sean will come in about the top of the hour, quarter after or so. So don't go anywhere. Maybe this is a great time to hit the urinal. Oh, wait! I'm sorry. In leftist cities, we don't have urinals anymore, do we?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunetz. At night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunetz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
Wendy and one viewer in chat. We'll be right back after this.